No, you're right, but
Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, May 15th, 2023, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councillor Reed.
Here?
Councillor Hussman.
Here.
Councillor Kohler.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Council President Starr.
Here.
Councillor Duran.
Here.
Councillor Cross.
She is excused this evening.
And Youth Councillor Sarmiento.
Here.
Thank you very much. If you are able, I invite you to rise, and I would ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. This evening, we're going to start off with a couple of special orders of business. I'm going to start off with the proclamation for Older Americans Month, and let me get to that proclamation, and then I have Tammy Coons will be coming to talk about that. Shall I read the proclamation, then have you follow up? So have a seat. And I really want to express my appreciation to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee for looking at the proclamations we do and asking for an opportunity to come and speak to what that proclamation is about and how we can learn from it and celebrate that each of these commemorative months in our community. So I really appreciate the partnership here. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the Department of Health and Human Services traditionally proclaims the month of May as Older Americans Month and has selected the 2023 theme of Aging Unbound, which offers an opportunity to understand diverse aging experiences and combat stereotypes and myths. And whereas aging is a natural part of human life, and we, as a community, can and should understand and act to care for and remain connected with people throughout all the stages of life, promoting physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And whereas this Keizer community spans several generations and is enriched by the diversity of life experiences, perspectives, knowledge, and wisdom of each generation, and whereas the people of Keizer respect and honor our elders and seek to encourage their ongoing involvement with meaningful opportunities to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, together with the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Older Americans Month, and ask all the people of Keizer to express their thanks to and join in with the many volunteers who continue to help and serve in our community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Keizer to be affixed to this document on the 15th day of May, 2023. Tammy, would you want to talk to us about Older Americans Month?
Okay.
Maybe can we bring that in a little closer? Excellent.
All right. Older American Month was established in 1963. 17 million American people reached the age of their 65th birthday. It's about 1/3 of Americans who lived in poverty with a few programs to meet their needs. In order for Americans to meet their growing concerns, in April 1963, President John F. Kennedy and members of the National Senior Citizens led May as Senior Citizen Month, which is a prelude to Older American Month. Historically, Older American Month has been acknowledged by past and current persons to our country in order to defend our country. Every president since Kennedy has issued a formal proclamation during the month of May asking the nation to pay tribute to those older persons in their communities. Older American Month is celebrated across the country with ceremonies, events, fairs, and other such activities. 1965, policymakers established legislation for grants to state planning and social services to reach development projects, personnel training, in the field of aging. The law established Administration of Aging, AOA, to administer the newly grant program to serve federal focal points on the matter of concerning older persons. Although older persons receive services under many federal programs today, it is considered a major vehicle for organizations to deliver social services, nutrition services, and also for caregiver groups. It otherwise authorize a wide range of programs through national networks of 56 states of aging, 618 agencies aging, nearly 20,000 providers, 281 tribal organizations, one Native Hawaiian organization representing 40 tribes. Also, AOA includes community service employment, income for older Americans, such as training, research, demonstrations for activities in the ongoing field of aging and vulnerable elder rights and protection activities.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you doing that work and sharing that presentation with us. And now, last meeting, I read the proclamation for the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and here to share with us about that is Carrie Brown.
Thank you very much. I would like to share a little bit about my personal experience, which will coordinate with the rest of the presentation that I would like to share with you today. My name is Caridad Lee Brown. Caridad is my Spanish name because I was born in Cuba. Lee is my Chinese surname, and Brown is my American name. So I'm proud to share that I encompass a multicultural and experience in my lifetime. A little bit about myself. In the Chinese community, the surname Li always goes in front of the name. So my name in Chinese is Li Choi Mei. Depending on which group I am speaking with, I answer to Ameya when I'm speaking with my family and the Chinese community. If I'm with the Hispanic or Spanish-speaking community, they will often address me with the name Caridad or my nickname Cari. When I was in Cuba, I grew up by going to a bilingual school. And in the morning, I learned Chinese, and in the afternoon, all my classes were in Spanish. I had one American teacher who taught a class in English, and she gave me the name Carrie. So to my American friends who cannot pronounce Caridad or Cari, I go by Carrie. And a lot of times when I'm speaking with people and they hear me speak Spanish, they do not understand why I'm fluent in Spanish. And so I have to give people a small history lesson. And so this is where the Asian American Pacific Islander presentation comes into place. So I had to do a lot of research because I didn't even know myself why I ended up in Cuba. Actually, I was born there. And the reason why I was born in Cuba is because my dad went to Cuba. Like many Chinese people, they could not enter the United States because of something called the Chinese Exclusion Act. And all over the countries in South America, you will find Chinese communities. You will see Chinatowns in all of the countries in South America. So my dad had a Chinese restaurant. He went back to China and married my mom, and she came to Cuba with my brother, and that's why I was born in Cuba. I came to the United States as a refugee immigrant from Cuba. I came on the Peter Pan flights on Pan Am. And so if you guys have never heard of Pan Am or the Peter Pan flights, you should Google that because it will date me as far as when that happened. Anyway, I came by myself. So the history of me being a child refugee immigrant is not that unusual compared to what is going on right now and for several years when you hear and read about the refugees from Central America and other places who send their kids to this country by themselves. And what it is that parents see the danger that their kids are under. And me as a child, I didn't know what was going on. They just put me on a plane and sent me over to this country, and they arranged for me to live with a Cuban family. That Cuban family was relocated to Michigan. I lived with them for a year, and my parents were stuck in Cuba. They could not come here. So I ended up living in an orphanage for 3 years. So that is my personal story that kind of segues into today's presentation about the AAPI Heritage Month. So it started in 1976. I'm gonna just give you a few dates. I'm not gonna give you a history lesson. It was from 1976 to 1992 is how long it took for the Asian American Heritage Month to take place. Eventually, it was proclaimed by George H.W. Bush. So it took many years for that to happen. Why May was chosen is because on May 10th, 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed by over 20,000 Asian immigrants. And at that time, the only people that could come to this country to work on the railroads were men. And the Chinese, and I will talk mainly about the Chinese here in Oregon because I think that's what's most important here for this audience. So between 1850 to 1860, the Chinese immigrated to Oregon. The majority worked as miners. And in fact, the Chinese called the United States Gold Mountain, Kimsan. So as a child, I always heard people in the community say, they went to Kimsan, because the people in China were the ones who came here were from southern China, Guangdong, and that's where my family is from. These people were poor, and so they viewed the United States as the gold mountain. And so they all came to work as miners. So that's the history of the Chinese people here in Oregon. Eventually, gold was no longer available, and so they went to other jobs, such as the railroads. And back then, women were not allowed, Chinese women were not allowed to enter the United States. In 1876, the Page Act banned the immigration of Chinese women. Chinese women were considered to be immoral until they could prove otherwise. They were either deported back to China or they could not enter this country. So most men who came to work earned their money and sent it back to China, or they hoped to go back to China, which hardly ever happened. Eventually, the Chinese in Oregon moved to Portland. And as you probably know, Portland had a very vibrant Chinatown. It's no longer that vibrant because of things that have happened in the downtown Portland area. So when was the Chinese Exclusion Act happened? It was in 1882. When was it ended? In 1943 by FDR, and he actually signed an executive order that repealed the Chinese Exclusion Act. And after that, then the Chinese were welcome. Well, not welcome, but they were able to immigrate to this country. A couple other things that are of note is that in 1972, Nixon visited China because there was never any visiting between the government and people of the United States and China. After Nixon went to China, then the other administrations and presidents followed suit. Carter was one, and in 1978, Carter established official diplomatic relations with China. When my mom and dad went to Cuba, and eventually they came here, they left a daughter back in China. She couldn't leave with them, so she lived with my aunt. She grew up and got married and had 5 kids, but they all stayed in China because they could not migrate to this country, and that was very typical of the Chinese. So after Nixon went to China, then because I was the citizen and I had papers, I was able to ask for my sister to come over under the family reunification program. What does the Chinese community look like in Oregon? Initially, like I said, it was the Southern Chinese that came to this country because they looked for economic opportunities. But later on, after 1980 and in subsequent years, other Chinese from China began to immigrate to this country, and in particular, Oregon. And those immigrants are from northern China or Taiwan, and they were more economically sufficient. They had higher education, so and they spoke a different dialect, Mandarin. So there are lots of different types of Chinese who live in Oregon, and our story is very similar to that of the Japanese, who also came around the same time and worked in the railroads. The Japanese did not do mining, but they did work on the railroads. Anyway, to end my very brief presentation, I just want to share that there's a couple of places in Oregon that would be very interesting for people to go and visit if you have not. In John Day, there's a Kam Wah Chung Museum. And what it is that it houses all the medical things that Ng Dak He, who was a Chinese doctor in that community. He was a doctor for everybody in John Day. And he was a very respected individual, and there's a museum there that houses all his medicines there. It's very interesting. I have not been to this place, but the Pendleton Underground is also a very interesting remainder of what used to happen that showed the prejudice that was hoisted on the Chinese community. They lived underground because after sundown, they could not be outside at all. And there's a lot of anti-Chinese types of actions that happened after the gold disappeared, and they could no longer work as miners. there was a lot of competition with the local white communities. And a lot of the Chinese places in Eastern Oregon, in John Day, were burnt down. Same with in Portland. This is a book that I read, and it's called Massacred for Gold. There was a massacre in 1887. 34 Chinese miners were massacred in Hell's Canyon. And this writer was a professor at Willamette University, and he actually went to Hell's Canyon and wrote a book about it. So anyway, I hope that the little bit of information that I shared with you enlighten you as, about some of the things that the Chinese people endured, and also, you know, the gifts that the Chinese community shared with the people of Oregon. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's all thank Carrie. That concludes special orders of business for tonight, and we're going to go to committee reports. I'm going to start off with Councilor Hussman to make 2 appointments. Councilor Hussman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am appointing RJ Navarro to the Volunteer Coordinating Committee and Thais Rodick to the Community Equity and Community Diversity Engagement Committee, excuse me. Very much looking forward to having both of them serve, and I think they will both be able to serve this community admirably. I'm excited to have them on board.
All right, thank you very much. The name for Community Diversity Engagement is, again?
Thais, Thais, Rodick, Rodick. Ms. Davis and Ms. Lockhart should have their information as well.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And let's see, other committee reports then. I have Jeremy Grenz is here to report on there you are, on the Planning Commission.
Madam Mayor, Councilors, Jeremy Grenz with the Planning Commission. I'll be brief. This last week, the Planning Director, Mr. Witham, brought us fee increases for land use applications. We recommended approval, so hopefully shortly it will be before you guys. That's all I got.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? A very brief report on a very substantive conversation. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second up is the dynamic duo of Matt Lawyer and Corey Filardo talk about the Clyde Creek Watershed Council and the Chamber. Oh, is this a competition? All right.
Okay.
We'll take them and pass them down.
Well, I like Matt's better than, because he brought it.
All right, here. We'll pass those down.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. For the record, Matt Lawyer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Corey Filardo, Executive Director at the Keizer Chamber, and I live here in Keizer.
So, thanks to Corey and Mayor Clark, I got kind of beat up this year for not getting Soggy Day off
Kindly.
around this year. And so I appreciate that. What that told me is that it's an event that I think people really look forward to. And so met with Corey and said, I need help. And she has rallied a whole bunch of different sponsors, a whole bunch of different vendors that are willing to come and provide information. We're not going to be selling anything at this event. But Soggy Day this year is planned for May 27th. And we're going to have probably our most, I want to call it rambunctious, fun, I don't know what we're going to call it. It's going to be the biggest one we've done so far. And it's a large part because of Corey and all the people she's bringing to the table. But we're going to have our same old fun standbys. We're going to have the boat rides with Mark Callier, assuming that the river allows us to do that. We'll have free tacos out there. Hopefully the city can bring out the backhoe like we've done in the past. But I'll let Corey talk a little bit about some of the other people we brought. But it's gonna be a really fun time this year.
We have great sponsors, KBZY and AJ's Hideaway, Northwest Dental Arts, excuse me, A to Z Rental, let's see, of course, Sancho's Tacos is serving up the tacos. Gracie Sweets and Treats will be there to give away free ice cream cones to the community. Keizer United is gonna be there, Keizer Rotary, Keizer Fire will be there. We just really wanted, well, I actually muscled Matt into doing this because my family had such a great time the last few years and just found it to be such a great thing for people to come and be a part of. And it's just fun to be at the park all day and for a parent not to have to worry about paying for anything for your kid to do all day. And just to be able to be with your friends and family. And so I just said, we need to do this. We need to make it happen. And then we kind of let the weekends get away from us. And I said, let's still do it. And let's do it on Memorial Day weekend for the families that aren't going away. And we'll just have a great time and make it happen. So we just want anybody and everybody to come. It's open to everyone. And if you have or know of anybody that wants to come and be a part of volunteering or have a business or a special talent that they want to come and do with children and families, we'd also welcome that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we see it's on the agenda today, and I just really thank city staff for getting that turned around pretty quick. I was waiting on a couple pieces on my end, and so no doubt our city staff deliver like they always do. So very appreciative. Take any questions if y'all got any.
Thank you very much. And no, this is definitely on my calendar. We're going to reward the people who don't go off for Memorial Day weekend. We know a lot of people like to travel, but hey, if you don't, you can have fun right here and you can walk and bike down there and bring your four-legged furries on a leash and have a good time. Any questions from folks about a soggy day at the park, which is an event that,
We don't talk about it.
oh, okay, we don't say it.
We don't talk about it till after, Madam Mayor. We don't want to jinx it.
Got it. You say soggy day at the park.
Yeah.
I will leave it at that. From 10 to 2 at Keizer Rapids, come on down, and if you've want to participate, face painters, things
Yep,
like that,
we have one.
if, oh, fantastic, okay.
Yep. Yeah, we got a face painter. I mean, we're just kind of bringing out all the stops. Like, people have just really kind of come out of the woodwork and said they wanted to participate in this because they see the value in the community there. And we're just, it's awesome. We're super, super encouraged to be able to provide this free event. And again, it's free only because of our amazing sponsors, so.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Councilor Kohler?
Just a comment, this will be a great warm-up for our 40th year birthday party.
Well, and if the city wants to sponsor a booth out there and have some information stuff out there or anything that we can bring to help get the word out on that, we're happy to do that as well.
There you go. Gauntlet laid. And here's the 2 flyers. You should post them online and have a contest, which one you like, and you can get information from both, but the most important thing is show up and have fun. Thank you so much for putting this together for our community. Really appreciate that. And we're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is everything I have for committee reports.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
you skipped the volunteer coordinating committee appointment of the youth counselor.
I did. I got the 2 from Councilor Husband. I did skip that. All right, let's go to the Volunteer Coordinating Committee appointment of youth counselor for the 23-24 school year, and that goes to Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Our youth counselor, Shai Ventos, time is coming to a close. The Volunteer Coordinating Committee met and reviewed candidates. They had 2 candidates for it. They have passed forward the name of Grayton Woodward as the youth counselor for the school year 2023-2024 and is seeking your approval.
All right, thank you very much. And as I understand it, having read the applications from both of the candidates, it was a very difficult decision because both are extraordinary. So with that, any questions on the staff report? Council President Starr.
Let me get back. I need to get back there. I'm sorry.
All right. I move that the Keizer City Council approve the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee and appoint Grayton Woodward as youth counselor for the 2023-24 term.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve the recommendation of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee and appoint Grayton Woodward as the youth counselor for the 2023-24 term. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Lockhart, for keeping me on task. Okay, now we will go to public comment. Oh, is there anybody else here for a committee report that did not sign up? Okay, I didn't skip anybody. Public comment this time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have 4 public hearings scheduled for this evening, so if you're here for one of those, please stand by. Before we get to folks for comment, we do have under written comment a letter from Gary Whalen, resident of Keizer, on the proposed leash law. And that is something that I believe will be coming to a city council agenda on June 5th. Is that correct? So I encourage everybody to keep this handy as we go into that conversation on June 5th. With that, I do not have, whoops. Anybody signed up for public comment at this time? Is there anyone who would like to address the council on something other than the 4 public hearings? Okay. With that, then we will move on to the first of our 4 public hearings, and that would be, I'll open a public hearing for the Bricks Tavern liquor license application. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. There's an application for Bricks Tavern, which is located at 6045 Keizer Station Boulevard, former Gustav's Bar Garden. They are, the applicant is Mary Byram, and they are requesting approval after the public hearing is opened to allow testimony, and then recommend that the council move it on to the state. The proper fees have been paid, and the checks have been, the background checks, police checks have been made for the applicant, so.
There's a difference in names in that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the staff report? Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, Mr. Johnson?
Public hearing, you need to check to see if anyone wants to testify.
Okay. I was going to ask for questions on the staff report before we went to comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought Council President Starr was about to make a motion.
No, I think she had a question.
I had a question. Thank you. Mr. Brown, the staff report refers to Mary, and the application down at the bottom lists the applicant as Mark. Does that, I just wanted to make sure that that doesn't, if the application's incorrect and has the wrong name, that could.
It's Michael.
Right. Yep, you're right. I can't answer that question because this is one I'm covering for.
Mark Byram.
Yeah. I don't know if the typo is on the staff report or on the application. I would assume it would be on the right one would be on the application under Mark, but from the signature, it's difficult to tell between Mark and Mary. So.
Okay, so, and the motion as we very likely will go forward with does not refer to the name, just for the liquor license application and for the business. And do we need to refer to the business as a full title, the Bricks Tavern, I think it's LLC?
Bricks Tavern Keizer LLC.
Okay, Bricks Tavern Keizer LLC. Okay. So we'll change that in the motion. Okay. Any other questions, comments before we see if there's anyone who would like to address the council? All right. I have nobody signed up to testify on this matter. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council under this agenda item? All right, seeing none. Any other questions or comments before I close the public hearing? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr, put a motion on the table, please.
I move the City Council recommend approval of the application for a new liquor license for Bricks Tavern Keizer LLC under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.178 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council, there we go, approve the application for a new liquor license for Bricks Tavern Keizer LLC under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.178 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, and that's Councilor Cross. All right, that concludes our first public hearing for the evening. We will now go to item 7B, which is the Kagoshima Ramen House liquor license application. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is a second one, the Kagoshima Ramen House on 3858 River Road. This is the former Thai Lotus restaurant that is being filled by the ramen house. They are requesting a alcohol permit through the OLCC. Again, the license request has been reviewed and the fees have been paid, and it needs a public hearing and authorization by the City Council.
All right, any questions or comments on the staff report? Did I open the public hearing, Debbie?
Yes, you did.
Okay, just checking. All right, is there anybody in the, here who would like to address the council on this issue? I have nobody signed up for this public hearing. All right, seeing none, close the public hearing. Council President Starr.
I move the City Council recommend approval of the application for a change of ownership and trade name for the liquor license for Kagoshima Ramen House under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.178 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council recommend approval of the application for a change of ownership and trade name for the liquor license for Kagoshima Ramen House under the guidelines as established by ORS 471.178 and the ordinances of the City of Keizer. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, and that's Councilor Cross. We will go now to our third public hearing for this evening, which is an ordinance declaring a lien against property located at 961 Jamawa Road Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien into the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 2019-809, regulating the maintenance, reconstruction, alteration, and repair of sidewalks, declaring an emergency. Public hearing is now open. This goes to Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this matter is before Council for pursuant to Ordinance 2019-808. The property owner was given notice of the violation of the sidewalk. They failed to contact the city at all after they were provided notice. The city then proceeded to move forward and have the repairs made. We chose to do it ourselves instead of hiring a contractor. So the repairs were made. The resident, the property owner has been notified of the amount due, and still we have not had any response from them. And therefore, the next step is to place a lien on the property so that we ensure the city is repaid for the expenses to repair the sidewalk. The total lien comes to $1,605.20, which includes an administrative charge and the publication cost of $78 to notice the public hearing. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the issue or the staff report? All right, seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this matter? I have nobody signed up. Don't all rush at once. All right, anything else before I close the public hearing from council? Public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr.
I move the City Council adopt ordinance number 2023, declaring a lien against property located at 961 Shamara Road Northeast in Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien in the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 2019-808, regulating the maintenance, reconstruction, alteration, and repair of sidewalks, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance number 2023, declaring a lien against property located at 961 Chamawa Road Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien into the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 2019-808, regulating the maintenance, reconstruction, alteration, and repair of sidewalks, declaring an emergency. Any further discussion? Councilor Hessman.
Madam Mayor, I think Council President Starr misstated the number of the ordinance pursuant here. She said 2019-808 as opposed to 2019-809.
It's 8.
It is.
Okay, is it a 9?
No, Madam Mayor.
Oh, it's different between the two.
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson?
Staff report says 808.
Yeah, the staff report says 808, and the agenda says 809.
Let's play who's right.
The ordinance number would be correct, so.
But in which one?
So the actual ordinance number is different than the.
It's in
On the agenda, it's
the proposed,
809.
in the agenda, it has 809, and in the motion, it has 808. So I'm scrolling.
Madam Mayor, Council President Starr, again, forgive the
Did you find it?
persnickety nature of this. I just want to make sure we have the paperwork correct.
Well, actually, in an ordinance, the language has to be precise, so thank you for pointing that out, and
It's wrong in the staff report.
Yeah, it's 808.
it is 808, and the
In the
motion
staff
is 808.
Yep.
Okay, so the motion is correct as,
No, I read the motion in the staff report, and it is incorrect in the staff report.
You said 808.
Oh, I did
you
say
did say 808.
808.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's wrong on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't wrong.
No,
Okay.
we got it right. Thank you for pointing out there's a difference on the agenda and the ordinance in the staff report and in the packet is 808.
At least I didn't screw up.
All right, we're good.
No harm, no foul, promise.
No, it's important to make sure we have the number correct because then we have to come back and do it again. Are we good, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, and that's Councilor Cross. Good catch. That takes us to our final public hearing for this evening, and that is item 7D, the Keizer Development Code Text Amendment Case 2023-04, various corrections, and I do mean various, accessory dwelling units and cottage cluster standards. I think this goes to Mr. Witham, and I think we have you to thank for the size of the packet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. I would say it's not 100% Shane's fault. I did attempt to shrink down and do a list. However, our legal department said that's really not how we do it. So I was overruled.
Okay.
I did try. I did try. Sorry, are we good? Are we open with
We're
the
all
public
good.
hearing and start talking? Okay.
The public hearing is now open.
So tonight there is, I do apologize. It is a huge amount of paper, but as you've looked through it all, I'm sure, and read every single word of the development code, we do highlight the changes, and they're pretty minimal. Essentially, what this is there's a whole bunch of, I'll call them Scrivener type errors. There's essentially a list that our legal department and the planning staff kind of keep as we find little errors that sneak their way into the code over the years. The only thing I can say is that I'm not responsible for a ton of those errors because I haven't been doing this forever. However, I have made my own errors. So in the staff report, I do want to point out, speaking of Scrivener type errors, I erroneously somehow in the summary said we had a planning commission hearing in November of 2022. I don't know. I think my calendar was in a time warp. The planning commission hearing was on April 12th, 2023. So it is correct in the analysis portion, just not in the summary portion. So I apologize for that. Spell check does not correct time warps. It only corrects spelling, apparently. So what we have in the staff report, I tried to pare it down. So I made a list, the A through K list of actual changes with the sections. Essentially, it's a whole bunch of Scrivener errors. There was some reference points that were incorrect sections of the code that things were referencing. There was some terminology changes between, sometimes we use chapter in the code, sometimes section, and that I think has to go back way to like the late 80s when we used to call all of our development code chapters, but since then it's been sections, and slowly but surely we've tried to catch them all. But we continually find ones that we haven't caught. So that's most of your packet. What I do want to kind of bring to light or to point out are the things that we would consider a little bit more substantive. We are changing our section that was previously called shared housing facilities. It's a section that's been in our code since 1998. It's where accessory dwelling units live. And it has been changed not once, not twice, not thrice, but I think this is the fourth time that we've changed it in response to city needs and state legislation. This one was all on Shane. And ultimately, we've had a lot of confusion with developers and property owners because they can't figure out where accessory dwellings are allowed because we don't call them that. So we're changing the title of the section, which ultimately resulted in us having to change like 7 more sections because it's referenced. So that's a bunch of it. But the crux of the ADU section, what we found is over the last few years, as accessory dwelling units have been built and people have decided to take advantage of that different housing type on their properties, is there were some barriers in the code to what was imagined would be possible. Specifically putting a unit on top of an existing detached garage building. Because of the way we measured square footage, because of the way we regulated heights, we had a couple properties, one pretty recent in my neighborhood where it seemed completely normal and would make total sense for them to put a second-story apartment on top of an existing outbuilding that was there, that was their garage. But because of the way we regulate square footage, they could not. So they end up having a garage and an ADU kind of next to it. And it actually looks fine, it looks good, it's nice, but it wasn't their original desire. But it really highlighted to us that we needed to be a little bit proactive and address that, because that was imagined right in the description of the section. It talks about apartments over garages, and here we are having rules that aren't allowing it. So we tweaked how we measure square footage, where we used to just call it square footage of the building. Now we're calling it interior living space, to be more the actual apartment part. And we also clarified some things with height, where before an ADU could never be taller than the main house. But if you had a single-story house and a detached garage and you wanted to put a second-story ADU, you may not be able to do that. So we capped the height at 25 feet, which is the exact same height that we allow for cottage clusters right now. So that was kind of the crux of that section 2.403 for shared housing unit or shared housing facilities, changing to accessory dwelling unit is the new language. So that I wanted to kind of point out because that was kind of the biggest substantive change that we were making. There's 2 other ones that I want to point out and highlight. One is in our street standards, a very finite change, but we realized that our code really didn't speak to access standards for some of the middle housing provisions that are in effect. And so we had a standard for access easements serving single family and duplex, and we had an access easement standard for multifamily and commercial. But triplex, quadplex, cottage clusters were kind of all just not talked about. And so when we looked at that, we found that, well, the fire district actually has a say in this. So what we proposed in that section is just a little tweak where we're including the triplex, fourplex, triplex, quadplex, we don't call them fourplexes, sorry, quadplexes and cottage clusters in that same category as multifamily and commercial, which gives some deference to the fire district and the city engineer to address what the appropriate width might be, because it might not just be 20 feet. Depending on how they're constructing and the distances, they might need a little more distance. So that is a very minor but somewhat substantive change. And then last but not least is in our cottage cluster section, we had an error that, that one was my fault. I tried to catch it, I did catch it, and then somehow the final draft that came to council didn't have it. But we had two different references for what was an allowed height. And it was clearly supposed to be 25 feet, but one of the references had 25 feet or as tall as the house. And so we clarified that it's just 25 feet is the maximum height for a cottage cluster. In addition, we looked in that section and we added some clarifying language that allows an existing accessory dwelling unit, if somebody wants to come in and convert their house and accessory dwelling unit into a cottage cluster, we clarified that is possible with an existing accessory dwelling unit. So that was just some clarifying language in there. One last one I will point out. This one is kind of, I won't say humorous, but it's one that's been an error in the code for a very long time, and it's in our sign code. And I know many of us have talked about we will never open the sign code again, and that was my plan. As long as I work here, I won't speak of sign code issues. But there was this long-held error where when we talked about illumination of electronic message signs, the language actually said sunrise to sunset instead of sunset to sunrise. And that was an error identified. Actually, I identified it years ago, and it had just never been changed. And so since we were doing all these Scrivener type errors, Councilor Johnson convinced me, just do it. It's not substantive. We need to get that fixed. So that's the other one that I did kind of want to highlight, because I knew at least a couple of you would get a bit of a chuckle out of that one. And I think with that, our recommendation is that you would recommend staff to come back with an ordinance and appropriate findings for adoption. But any questions on all of this stuff? And again, I apologize for how many pages it was. Hopefully you're all getting electronic packets.
And I like that it's highlighted in red, so we can scroll through, and that's the one, that's the one, that's the one. So I appreciate that. Councilor Husband, you have a question?
I do have a couple. Thank you, Mr. Witham. Downstream effects, how's this helping out your side, the planning office, especially with regard to any permitting?
Sure, yeah. I think primarily with Scrivener errors, the hard part about them is that there are errors. And so we end up having issues where somebody comes in and they look at a reference and the reference is wrong, and it puts us in a very difficult spot because we know what the reference is supposed to be and what it means. But that kind of puts us in a little bit of a lurch of theoretically being able to apply standards if somebody wanted to argue with us over them. The other piece is specifically for the ADU changes. That really is driven not just for clarification in the planning department and city staff that are giving out information, but really from a customer service interface. It's weird when somebody says, I want to build an ADU, and they want to Google ADU and they can't find it because it's shared housing facility. So it's one of those that we feel is just appropriate to align the language. It's the language that's used in state statute. It's the right thing to do.
Understood. And then, do you mind, I'm asking you to get a touch technical here, but
yeah.
Could you please explain the rules governing access to an ADU at present?
Oh, sure.
Essentially, what kind of spaces there need to be? Does it need to be a driveway, a walkway, so on and so forth?
Yeah, and this is where it does get very confusing, because we have middle housing provisions, which are things that be single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, cottage clusters, townhouses. Those are all in the middle housing category. Accessory dwelling units are technically not middle housing. Mm-hmm. That's something that as a city of our size, we are required to allow an accessory dwelling unit wherever we allow a single family home. And the state, one of the reasons we had to refine our rules a few times with that, is an accessory dwelling unit doesn't need any specific access. We can't require a parking space for an ADU. By state law, we can't require that. We can't require any special access. Now, it does not preclude them from having to meet fire code requirements. So we've had a few ADUs built where they don't have, the ambulance can't pull up to the door. They have to be able to walk to it, but it sometimes triggers them needing to do like a residential sprinkler system or something like that to jive with the building code. But yeah, as far as actual access to an ADU, we don't regulate it any different than the primary house because it's accessory to a main home.
Okay, and I understand, I appreciate you saying all that. I was kind of curious because there are a very small subset of houses, for example, in Keizer with alley access, and what does that mean as a differentiator versus just, an ADU that's in someone's backyard, essentially, that best way is on a concrete walk or set of pavers or some such.
Sure, yeah, and I think realistically for that person that does have an alley access, it kind of makes them a prime location that they might consider like, oh, maybe an ADU makes more sense for us than it would somebody else.
Hey, we can inform, but we can also advertise. Thank you, Mr. Witham. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions on the staff report or any of the provisions that are being considered? Okay, would anybody here like to address the council on this matter? I have nobody signed up for the public hearing. All right. With that, public hearing is now closed. Council President Starr.
I move the city council direct staff to prepare an ordinance with findings to adopt the proposed revisions to the Keizer Development Code.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare an ordinance with findings to adopt the proposed revision to the Keizer Development Code. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, and that's Councilor Cross. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We will now go on to administrative action. Item 8A, which is the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association Annual Report. And I believe Patty Tischer is here to address the council.
Hello. Do you want me to introduce?
Yes, please.
Okay. I am Patty Tischer. I am a resident of Keizer, and I am the president of the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association. And I had already submitted the packet. Did everyone get the packet that I submitted to?
Nope, that's not this.
Tracy, and I just wondered if there was.
It is in our packet.
Okay.
Electronically.
So I wondered if anyone had any questions about anything that I had submitted.
I didn't, but number one, thank you for the hard work to keep the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association going, especially with all the changes over the last 3 years.
Yes.
And a lot of work has gone into that. Who are the liaisons to Greater Gubser?
That's me.
That would be Councilor Starr. And is it Councilor Cross is the other one?
Yes.
Okay. So, Council President Starr, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I tried to, we haven't had a lot of meetings. We've done a lot of collaboration with other neighborhood associations, which that has been very nice and very successful this past year, and it's helped all of the neighborhood associations gain a little bit of traction. And we're hanging in there. We don't have a lot of participation at the meetings, but that's maybe a good thing that we don't have a lot of problem and issues. So we're trying to get out there, and if people bring something to us in between the times when we have not having a meeting, then we try to address it that way. So and I did send you an email of something that had come up, and I don't know if you want to address it at this forum, if we should address that otherwise with our beautification project that we were working on. Should we address that outside?
Probably separate, so
Okay.
we'll talk about this, and then we can talk about that project separately. So
Okay,
this is for
perfect.
the to receive the annual report and to extend recognition for another year.
Okay, perfect.
And I do want to highlight one particular thing, and that was the use of not only the low-tech communications through yard signs and so forth, but also the technology outreach through Nextdoor, and highlight some of the numbers that you published regarding the increased use of Nextdoor for communications, and with people being very busy, some people working from home, some not, to be able to embrace using technology, I think is another way to keep people connected. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, those are some fun numbers to see, and we've been tracking it, and it's hard. Facebook changed some of their algorithms, and so it's hard to get an accurate number lately on that, but we're still seeing engagement and we're seeing activity with that. But the numbers on Nextdoor, that was what I thought was pretty fun, with over 2,000 households engaging in that. So the social media, it's a nice platform to have, to be able to reach out broader numbers. So, but I want to thank all of the city councilors and the mayor for your support that we've had over the years, that it helps us and gives us motivation when we have your support. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anything further? All right, Council President Starr.
I move the City Council accept the report of the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association and extend recognition to the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association for an additional year.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council accept the report of the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association and extend recognition to the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association for an additional year. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, and that's Councilor Cross. Thank you very much, Patty.
Thank you.
Oh, and did you want to mention, I mean, this is administrative, but the signage, you just did a beautification project.
Well,
there was a question.
We, for the last couple of years, the brick arches at Trail Avenue, we had wanted to do some cleaning and moss removal and such, and there was just two of us that showed up for the cleaning of that, and Dan came by and gave us some support too, so not sure if your arm is tired from scrubbing on that. But it's going to be a slow process. I mean, it's a lot of work to scrub the dirt, and not having water access and power access. We're using little spray bottles and scrubbies and gallons of water
But it was fun to spray each other.
Yes, and saying, oh, this is water, not the chemical. Well, this is the water we're spraying at you. So, but it was the ridiculously hut day too. So I know that had something to do with it. But it's something, you pick a day and you don't know what the weather is going to be. And so it's just what works out for people in their schedules. So it looks a lot better. There was some graffiti that had been sprayed, and oh my goodness, it is difficult to scrub graffiti off of brick. It is very difficult, and we were just using a vinegar and water solution. But we got most of it. I mean, it looks different if brighter, but it's a work in progress.
Okay.
So.
And there was a question about retaining those. Some people were like, well, they've been here a long time. So there was some conversation. So will the Neighborhood Association come back with a recommendation, or do you need additional information from our Public Works Department about the status of those markers?
And I mean, most people that we speak to and people in the neighborhood, they really like them. They think that they look wonderful, and they were really excited about the thought of, getting those cleaned up. And there was actually even a couple of people that stopped there was this one man that he rolled his window down and he was like, oh, thank you so much. He says, I've been wanting to stop by and clean and do this, you know, myself. And do you have someone that's going to repair the brick? And he was just like really, you know, thanking and everything. And so most people, you know, we had some people, you know, that would stop and say thank you as they just kept going instead of stopping to help us. But it's all good. But there is one particular family that they would like, that I have heard so far, that they would like it removed. They've been there since the subdivision was built, and it's an easement, and I don't know what the ordinance is and what the,
So follow up, just to get some additional information.
yeah.
All right.
So, you know, I just don't think, you know, I don't know where we would stand on that, because the city ordinances, I don't know. So it's kind of a, okay, well, we've just got further discussion about it, so I don't know where you.
Mr. Lawyer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Palmacian neighborhood went through this recently. They have some brick structures that had signs on them originally back when that subdivision was built back in the 50s, I believe, may have been before that. And the West Keizer Neighborhood Association took on the challenge of fixing them, having the signs rebuilt. Now, in that neighborhood, I don't remember if they're actually in the right-of-way or not. There's a wide right-of-way on Shoreline, I know that, so they may have been in the right-of-way. In the Gubser neighborhood, or originally Willark Park was the name of that subdivision, those are placed between the sidewalk and the curb, correct? So those are in the public right-of-way, but from the city's standpoint and the Public Works Department standpoint, we don't care. You can do whatever you want with those.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
that's
we
not
will
right.
look to, well, let me qualify that statement, okay?
With the,
Let me
Yeah,
qualify
but
my
an
statement.
individual can't.
What I mean by that is, now that there's the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association, I would look to the Neighborhood Association for the recommendation or a request to remove them. If the neighborhood wants to beautify them, clean them, hang signs, fine, go for it. Have fun. I can offer some assistance and maybe some guidance on maybe how to clean them, how to construct some signs, or some things to make them more vandal-proof and graffiti-proof. Now, there's nothing that's
Resistant.
graffiti-proof, but graffiti-resistance is probably a better term. But in terms of what to be done, that's really up to the neighborhood association. And so that's what, the Public Works Department doesn't care about. What happens to them is really up to the neighborhood association. Originally, it would have been up to the subdivision, but that's now evolved over the decades into the neighborhood association. But I'm happy to give you some guidance, some pointers from what we know and what we've learned over the years. So just get a hold of me and see what I can provide for you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And one thing we originally, when we first started talking about beautification of these arches a couple years ago, we were interested in redoing the sign. We don't have any actual pictures of what the sign looked like, but there was diamond shape, and they were a mesh sign with white lettering. They were black with white lettering, and it just said Willock Park. And we were excited about the prospect of maybe, you know, redoing that or having some kind of a contest to redesign a sign incorporating Willock Park and Gubser neighborhood and such. But as time has gone on and there has been increased graffiti that we're seeing in the neighborhood, and also just the lack of bodies that are active in the neighborhood association, we decided to just table the sign idea and just clean up the brick and get the brick, you know, looking better. The moss is pretty heavy and dirt on it. So that we just thought, you know, and so a sign, because one of the comments that came up from the neighbor is that they have difficulty visual with that as they're backing out of their driveway or other cars having, but again, I don't know if there's been any accidents from it, but also a sign would also impede the visibility as well too, even if it was a mesh sign, which had been there before. But, you know, development as it has been over the years, the neighborhood was created in the 60s. And so Trail Avenue was probably a dirt road or gravel road by then. So there's been You know, and I think that Manzanita probably wasn't as wide as it was back then too. So just the way those arches are sitting are closer into where there's more traffic happening now. And so that just makes sense. And I would imagine with future development and more development going on, that there will be more traffic along that area too, so. But from what I hear, most people want to keep them, and so, I guess we just kind of have to go with that.
All right.
So,
Well,
and
feel free to get a
some
hold of me with
information.
questions, and I'll provide as much information
Okay.
and knowledge as I can for you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
All right, thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
Okay, this will now take us to Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association. And Tammy Coons
Hello, y'all.
and team.
Yes. Okay, everybody have the packet in front of them?
We have it right here.
Perfect. Any questions or concerns?
Madam Mayor?
Counselor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm looking at your finances on page 9 and see that you have $342.02 of out-of-pocket expenses. Is there any way we could make adjustments to see that that gets reimbursed?
Or,
That's really a policy decision for you folks. We went through the budget process and we allocated a certain amount, and really, if you want to reconsider that, I mean, it's really up to you. It would be my recommendation.
Okay. So,
We do have appropriations available that we could use to do that if you wanted us to go that direction.
okay, thank you.
okay, I'm sorry, okay, thank you. So, page 9. So the allotment for the fiscal year are in now was $800, is that correct? And the total spent for the neighborhood association was $1149. And my question is this the same year, same fiscal year as the expansion from Northeast to Greater Northeast?
Yes, part of that was due to the expansion.
Okay. And if there is an overage, is that something that a neighborhood association can, can make a budgetary request and then bring it to council? Is that the appropriate venue for that conversation to happen?
It could go multiple ways. If you wanted to give direction, we can move forward that way. If you'd rather have a formal budget process, we can definitely bring something back at the next meeting.
I'm looking at, a process of, because the additional expenditures, they have to be eligible expenditures and so forth, and that's something I know that your department takes a look at, what are reimbursable costs, what are not, and to sort that out. I mean, based on what I'm seeing here, they look like eligible expenditures, but this is not what you receive. You actually receive the invoices and written receipts and so forth when somebody applies for reimbursement, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And with the expansion, from this year, that was not anticipated in the original budget conversation a year ago for the Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so this happened during the year. So looking at this overage, I would recommend, unless somebody's got another idea, that there be conversation between the neighbor association and our finance department to turn that in and to determine eligibility, and looking at our policies, whether that needs to come to council or if that can be handled through the finance department. Does anybody have an opinion on that? Councilor Hussman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a quick question, Tammy. Do you have any idea of the itemization of those? The out-of-pocket expense? I know that's asking a lot.
Most of that is due to printing flyers and doing door-to-door, introducing ourselves to the new area that we adopted in the Northeast Extension.
Yeah, the
Okay,
expansion.
Thank you so much for that. And I trust you have the receipts, just in
Yes.
case. Okay.
Counselor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the city has accounts with some local printers, so you would not have to print these out on your own, correct? At least
No.
when I was with the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, we billed the city directly.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's not, so that might be something you talk to Tim about too, in terms of printing your flyers. If that's turning out to be, you know, a major expense, there are other
Okay.
ways to do that.
Okay, so for future planning, because, you know, you're coming into a new fiscal year, there's going to be new budgetary allocation that we'll be having public hearing on June 5th, is that correct?
That is correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay. But for this year, to have the Neighborhood Association work with Finance Department on the expansion costs, which were not part of the original budget allocation, and look at what that is, and then bring back a recommendation if necessary for council action, or if that is something within the jurisdiction of the Finance Department to make sure that all of the costs are eligible. Comments, thoughts? Good? Good? All right, Councilor Husband?
Just an opinion, Madam Mayor, but given that it's less than $500, I think we can let the finance department take care of this one.
And while I would agree, I think it's going to be the compliance with our fiscal policy. So I'll leave it to Mr. Wood to make that determination. Okay? And also the hard work, I want to acknowledge that the Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association did expand
Yes,
this year.
yes, we did.
So do you want to just give a couple highlights for people who are watching?
So Jackie and I have gone through the numbers a little bit today and knocked on almost 3,500 doors through the Northeast and Greater Northeast combined into a now Greater Northeast Neighborhood Association. We've been holding more online meetings and have a pretty good average between 15 to 20 on a regular basis. At our last meeting, we talked to Laura and think we're gonna stick to the online form for right now and do a quarterly meeting here. That way, for those who want to come to a quarterly meeting can do so. So we're gonna look into doing that. I have 372 on an email list. And we physically deliver about 450 newsletters.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it's rewarding, and it's nice to get to talk to the community and find out what they need, what works best for them, and that kind of stuff. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Husband?
Tammy, forgive me for blowing up your spot here, but I appreciate you taking all the questions. I'm just curious, in the feedback and the interaction you have, are you getting good or, in your opinion, adequate representation from people who don't necessarily own homes or are renting apartments in the
Actually,
neighborhood?
that's one of our best assets, is because they don't own their home and they know that we're here advocating for what they need to be taken care of. As we get increases and go through the budgets and go through planning and parks and whatnot, it's been challenging. I'm currently working with a group of 58 folks right now to work something out with the traffic committee. So that has been something new that I haven't had to do before. So I'm learning a lot about hands-on with the traffic safety and bike peds and the new traffic stuff that's been in the works of redoing all of that. And being part of the SCAT meetings online has been really helpful to be able to answer questions for them. So they can see this is what's coming up. This is some of the things they can do. They all know they can send any comments in to everybody here. It's been really, really nice.
Well, it sounds like that's tremendous. And yeah, I'm, as council liaison of the TSBP, it's a lot.
Yes, yes, it is.
It's an awful lot. It's a credit, though, to Mr. Brown and Mr. Lawyer and staffs that.
Yeah, they've done a great job.
Yeah, deeply responsive. And so we are grateful for that service. Really, if you feel like there's some best practice to reaching the renting set that's out there in the neighborhood associations, feel free to share the wealth, Tammy, because I don't want to say the city is generally not reaching those populations as well, but renters can be a little bit transient, right? They come and go.
Yeah. That's been the challenging part, is being able to, like Jackie and I took a meeting at Keizer Apartments the other day and just answered a few questions here and there and talked about some of the changes coming up with the increases that are going to be coming their way, so they can prepare for whatever feedback they're going to get. And they know that we're a phone call away. You guys are a phone call away. I direct them to the website all the time for more info. So it's been challenging but rewarding, and I'm gaining much more knowledge on the planning side than I thought that I would get.
I mean, your first
So
line of
thank you,
defense at
Shane,
this point.
Because it's really come in handy, and following the House bills that's going on right now has been helpful in keeping them apprised of what's going on. So it's different.
Yeah, and thank you for telling us all that. It's a lot, and certainly we've been concerned about the flow of information, how we're getting things out, and suffice it to say, I think with what we want to do with the neighborhood associations next year, we want to be sure that that's pretty well buttoned up, or at least relatively consistent regarding everybody, that they feel empowered, that they have the tools, and that they know where to go. So if you feel ahead of the game, go ahead.
I think it's challenging for everybody to be able to get out and do that. Jackie and I are not afraid to knock on doors. Some people may be. I have no problem. Jackie and I handed out 40th birthday info to 2,000 some odd homes and businesses. So that was exciting. I'm still working on those food trucks, by the way, to get that taken care of. But I don't know. We've talked to our law enforcement and know the times to be out, know the times not to be out. And when they see us out, they're aware we're out.
Love that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, or are we ready for the approval? Council President Starr.
I move the City Council accept the report of the Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association and extend recognition to the Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association for an additional year.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council accept the report of the Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association and extend recognition to the Greater Northeast Keizer Neighborhood Association for an additional year. Anything further to discuss? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, Councilor Cross. Thank you so much, Tammy.
You're very
Really
welcome.
appreciate you and Jackie and your team for great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. With council's, if you would allow, we have two people waiting for item G. And maybe we take that out of order so they can go home. This is the fee waiver for the Soggy Day at the Park, Keizer Rapids Park. Is there any objection to taking that out of order? Hearing none, let's go to item 8G, which is the fee waiver for Soggy Day in the Park, Keizer Rapids Park. City Manager. Sorry, we'll have to all switch pages.
This will be Mr. Lawyer taking this one.
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam.
Mr. Lawyer.
Madam Mayor and Council, you obviously heard about this event earlier in the evening. This has been an annual event. This event has requested fee waivers in the past. It's before the council to consider whether it's appropriate to waive or reduce fees for this event. And staff recommends the city council consider the matter, make a minute motion to formalize its intent with regard to the fees. Your alternatives would be to consider the matter of the fees and deny the request, or consider the matter and waive all or some of the fees. And with that, I will leave it to the council.
All right, thank you very much. And for folks' reference, is on page 1031, is the financial, is the application fee, I'm not kidding. There's a big report that was a big chunk of it. I was blaming Shane, and it's not his fault, actually. It is the hazard mitigation, the multi-jurisdictional all hazard mitigation plan took up the bulk of the packet. So, sorry, Shane, Mr. Witham, I wrongly accused you. That said, that's where the financial breakdown is. And Council President Starr, would you like to put a motion on the table for us to debate?
My pleasure. I move the city council consider the matter and make a minute motion to familiarize its intent with regard to the fees.
We actually need to make a decision on the fees. So, well, this is, okay, so, so we have to have is this like a suspension of the rules take up the matter because it's in the packet? So I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
So the proposed motion.
I'm not sure I can turn that far in the packet, Madam Mayor.
I mean, that is what the staff report is reading.
All right.
Happy to make a different motion.
Well, I believe what Mr. Lawyer's indicating is, if I can get the packet straight out, is it's totally up to you folks. So we don't like to put blanks in there, but the issue is, do you want to deny the request, grant the request in full, or waive some of them? So you can see there under the analysis what the dollar amounts are. So it's up to council on how you want to frame that motion. Do you want to move to deny,
Please do.
grant, or waive part of them?
Okay. I move that the Keizer City Council waive the fees for the 2023 Soggy Day at the Park.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council waive the fees for the 2023 Soggy Day at the Park. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Let's have a fun Soggy Day at the Park, and the City of Keizer is happy to sponsor. Oh, with one absent, Councilor Cross. All right, there you go. We will now go back to our regularly scheduled order, and that is to go back up to item 8C, which is order in the matter of the application of Chemawa Station LLC for the approval of the Keizer Station Master Plan Amendment Area D, Keizer Station Amendment of Order in the application of Chemawa Station LLC adopted September 8, 2020, and the order in the application of Chick-fil-A adopted February 16, 2021. Mr. Witham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. So tonight, before you is the order bringing back approval of what we ordered, or what you all already held a public hearing on at your April 17th meeting. In that packet on April 17th, there were draft findings, there were draft conditions. Those are included now as kind of the official version of those. I am going to just say that that motion is really long. That's not to blame it on the Shane for that length of that motion, so I apologize. Council President Starr, that's a really long motion. But so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But as the public hearing was, last month, they are proposing to modify that southern portion of Area D, south of the jug handle. The site plan is also included in the packet there were no changes to any of that stuff from the public hearing. So that's what's before you tonight, it's just the process. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or defer those to Councilor Johnson.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report or the action this evening? Seeing none, Council President Starr.
I move to adopt the order in the matter of the application of Chamawa Station LLC for approval of the Keizer Station Master Plan Amendment, Area D, Keizer Station. Amendment of order in the application of Chamawa Station LLC adopted September 8th, 2008, and order in the application of Chick-fil-A adopted February 16th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt the order in the matter of the application of Chamawa Station LLC for approval of the Keizer Station Master Plan Amendment, Area D, Keizer Station, amendment of order in the application of Chamawa Station LLC, adopted September 8, 2008, and order in the application of Chick-fil-A adopted February 16, 2021. Discussion, and I have a question. In the agenda, it talks about September 8, 2020, and in the motion is September 8, 2008. It is 2008, if I remember correctly, for the original application of Chamawa Station. We have two different dates. I want to confirm that it is, as in the motion, that it is September 8, 2008.
I may have to defer to Councilor Johnson, but I actually believe that's September 2020 is what it should be. There's some confusion with amendments. So the original was actually 2004.
Okay.
But in the amendment in 2020, it was a repeal and a replace. And then Chick-fil-A came in and did just a simple amendment of flipping the building and going from 4 back to 3 buildings.
Right.
So that was processed as an amendment. This application was also processed as a simple amendment. It's not a repeal and a replace. But we carry forward the entire slew of conditions. So
Friendly amendment then, well, wait, hang on.
I'm sorry, so it was read as in the proposed motion, and yeah, that is incorrect. So it should be 2020, as Shane pointed out.
All right,
September
so
8,
friendly amendment to change the date from September 8, 2008 to September 8, 2020.
I accept.
Yes.
So that has been accepted, so the motion is as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, Councilor Cross. That takes us now to item 8D, resolution amending City of Keizer City Council Rules of Procedure, amending Resolution R 2022-3269. This goes to
Here, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is before the council based on your direction at the May 1 meeting with regard to age requirements. And probably the easiest thing to do is just go straight to the resolution, which is on page 254 of the electronic packet. And it just makes those changes to the subsections in section 18. The first one I'll note, that's noted in the staff report, there was a oddity there with regard to the date that has nothing to do with your direction, but we took this opportunity to fix this with regard to the boards, commissions, and committees work as a part of the work council goal and work plan process, but it's not in January. It's when that usually happens around April. So we just deleted that one line you can see in section 18.1. So I apologize for squeezing that in, but we wanted to correct that. The two changes, or three, I guess I should say, that you folks were looking at on the next pages with regard to qualifications as a regular voting member. The candidate must be 18 years of age or older on the date of appointment, except where specified by resolution or ordinance. And then for youth counselor, they need to be between the ages of 15 and 18, except where specified by resolution or ordinance. And for youth liaisons, they must be between the ages of 15 and 18, except where specified by resolution of ordinance. So those were the changes that we're making in the council procedures at your direction. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? Seeing none, Council President Starr.
I move that council adopt Resolution R2023, amending City of Keizer City Council Rules of Procedure, amending Resolution R2022-3269.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2023, amending City of Keizer City Council Rules of Procedure, amending Resolution R 2022-3269. Discussion. Councilor Hessman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pursuant to the meeting on May 1st, I would like to reiterate that taking out the possibility of putting individuals, specifically individuals age 16 and 17 who show clear capability in their thinking and understanding of the issues is ultimately a detriment to the community of Keizer. And I do think that this resolution limits our volunteer base in a way that may come back to bite the city in the future. I think it sets bad precedent, and I will be voting no on this measure. You all are certainly welcome to join me.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? So one of the things I would like to point out is that folks under the age of 18, when they do take action, they are also minors, so they have, they don't have contract making ability and so forth. So this was something that was, as I began to think about the legal responsibilities of an adult versus a minor, and a lot of the work that we do, I would like to make sure that folks who are voting also understand that there is a legal, legal responsibilities as an adult. And we also have liaisons for youth involvement and engage as much as we possibly can with encouraging youth voice, as we have seen with a series of extremely talented youth liaisons and youth counselors. So that's why we'll be supporting this. Councilor Husband?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well understood with regard to the contractual nature of some of the work inherent to these committees. At the same time, we were presented with examples of multiple cities in Oregon that do allow minors to vote on city committees, and it does cross my mind that there was no indication of a successful legal challenge to a minor's ability to serve based on that ability to that inability rather to sign a legal contract. So potentially there's some work out there for a trial lawyer, but it confuses me as to why that has not been brought to the forefront in a state court, if that is the case.
All right, thank you very much. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
No.
Motion passes 5-0 with the no being Councilor Husband and absent Councilor Cross. That takes us to item 8E, which is resolution adopting updates to the Marion County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan, reveal of resolutions R 2009-1999, R 2011-2157, and R 2017-2795. And this is the one that made the packet. It was this entire report. And this goes to
This is me, Madam Mayor and Council.
Mr. Brown.
We look forward to your recitation, Mr. Brown.
This is, paper gorger.
It is, but that's all good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. This is a required document to receive federal funding from FEMA and through Oregon Department of Emergency Management. We are part of the Marion County Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan, and they've gone through the prescribed process to be able to get this plan approved. They've received temporary or preliminary approval by FEMA and also Oregon Department of Emergency Management on March 17th, 2023. I would add or editorialize that Marion County does emergency management very well, and we're greatly benefit from their expertise in this. We, as a sub-jurisdiction of Marion County, can ride this plan. Our natural hazards and man-made hazards are specifically outlined in this document. And if, for those so inclined, which none of you really should be, but they're on page 536. There mentions are natural hazards, and then on the following page are man-made hazards. So, but this does open us up for future funding for mitigation efforts for any of the prescribed hazards that we're prone to, such as earthquakes, flooding, severe weather, and those are our top ones. So we need a resolution of approval so that it can be included and approved by FEMA.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the staff report? Councilor Husband?
Mr. Brown, do you mind outlining any of the specific changes to the Keizer section of the report, any of the updates that were made that most directly impact us or your office?
There really wasn't much change from the last time. I think maybe the biggest one was wildland fires that became very real over the last couple of years to Keizer and the Marion County community, and that rose to the top as far as our highest risk factors, so properly. So,
how is that generally reflected in the document?
Yeah, so on page 445 or 545 of your packet, you'll see the wildland interface fire is the highest probability of us having that emergency. The next one would be earthquakes, and then high temperature, flooding, severe weather, storms, tornadoes pretty far down the list, and then landslide, drought, and volcanic activity. And then of more recent, not necessarily in this plan, but we have cyber terrorism, public health, and hazardous material transport. So those are the things that a good example of mitigation efforts is Salem City Hall is not rated for earthquake, and being in this part of the country, that's they've got a significant amount of money in their bond, my understanding is, to make their city hall earthquake proof. So I think our building was designed after a lot of those architectural improvements or designs engineered. So we don't have that same problem, but that's just an example of how they could use a natural hazard mitigation plan to pursue federal funding.
Mm-hmm. Maybe an aside, what do we have as far as seismic emergency management or preparation initiatives? Do we have a list of buildings that we're looking at as dangerous? Just forgive me, I just don't know that portion of emergency management well.
Yeah, in our emergency operations plan, we have a segment, it's called an annex on, I think there is an annex for earthquakes. So in that annex, it gives specific things that we need to do. But I think given that this building is pretty new, it should be seismically pretty safe. The other buildings, even Public Works shop is not that old, I think, so it wouldn't pose too much of a risk. But the steps to take in that kind of an emergency are very spelled out in the annex.
Definitely. Would hope this building's good, right? We got a certificate or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
2008, definitely the building codes were ready for it. If it was the old one we used to have, not so much. That thing was very old. All right, any other questions or comments? Council President Starr.
I move that the council adopt resolution R2023, adopting updates to the Marion County multi-jurisdictional all hazard mitigation plan and repeal of resolutions R2009-1999, R2011-2157, and R2017-2795.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2023, adopting updates to the Marion County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan, repeal of Resolutions R 2009-1999, R 2011-2157, and R 2017-2795. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent as Counselor Cross. All right, that takes us to item 8F, which is an ordinance amending ordinance providing for public art and public murals, amendment of ordinance number 2020-813. City Manager?
It's for me, ma'am.
As Mr. Johnson? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This matter was directed by Council to come back to amend the ordinance with regard to public art, specifically with naming. And you can see on the first page of the ordinance, which is at page 1028, that it changes and adds a new section 12. Public art owned by the city or being commissioned for the city may only be named by the artist, or if the artist does not name the art, by the Keizer City Council. So that is the amendment to that ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report or the language for the update? Council President Starr.
I move the City Council adopt ordinance 2023, amending ordinance providing for public art and public murals, an amendment of ordinance number 2020-813.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance 2023, amending ordinance providing for public art and public murals, amendment of ordinance number 2020-813. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously with one absent, Councilor Cross. That takes us to the consent calendar for this evening. Council President Starr, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
I move we,
Just list, yeah.
consent calendar items, item A, Keizer Police Department Petty Cash Report. Item B, resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the cellular tower lease with T-Mobile West Tower LLC, and approval of May 1st, 2023 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? There are no polls. Council President Starr.
I move the city council adopt the consent calendar.
Second?
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously, one absent, Councilor Cross. This takes us to other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new oral matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Brown, are there any staff items for other business this evening?
There are none, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Council, are there any matters that need to be brought before us tonight that are not on the agenda? All right, we'll then move to staff updates. Mr. Brown.
I don't have any updates for the council. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wood.
No additional updates here either. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lockhart. Thank you. Chief.
Only thing I have is there will be a walking school bus in recognition of safe routes to school. This will be on May 23rd, starting at 7:15 in the morning, meeting at Taurus Loop in the grassy area, and then walking up to Forest Ridge Elementary School. Will be a part of that. Others may want to too. That's just been, it's hot off the press, so.
Okay. And would you have that emailed to us so we can put it into our calendars?
It is.
I tell you what, I just have this.
Literally just got it, I think, right before council.
Yeah, did you get it too?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I tell you what, I'll scan this into the city manager, and then he can send it to somebody and get it dispersed. Okay, thank you. That's it.
That's great. Thank you so much. Mr. Lawyer.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Witham.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, that will then take us to council member reports. Councilor Duran.
Well, nobody's got to talk about it yet, but the mayor's prayer breakfast was a good time on Thursday, May 4th. And in the past, that has always been, for me, the kickoff for Keizer Fest. So it seems like it's just sits out there in the open now by itself. But it's a good time getting together with people that a lot of times we only see once a year because they're not part of committees and they're just part of other events. So I did enjoy that. We spent a lot of time at budget committee last week. I was at a Keizer Fest planning meeting last week on Wednesday. Keizer Fest is kind of getting a little bit closer, so the Keizer Chamber is getting a little more into the details now, so things are heating up there. Planning Commission last week was a pretty good time. Not the usual. The planning commissioners were, I guess the majority of them were interested in finding a way to make it easier for people to find out about being involved with the planning commission. It seems like the only time people ever come to planning commission from in the audience is if there's an issue that they're going to be dealing with. And a lot of times they don't know that until after it's happened because it seems like nobody pays attention. That's my thoughts. So one thing that they had said is maybe using the neighborhood association, getting earlier notices to the neighborhood associations about titles or topic the month before. So this would, and I agree, this sounds like it'd be a good thing. Get them they won't have details, but they'll have the topic. So they can, one more thing they can talk about in their month previous or two previous. So that was something that I thought was definitely worth talking about. And I think that they'll kind of push maybe a little bit more towards that. And I think if we give the neighborhood associations a little bit more information on that they may jump on that too. So that's what I have. Thank you.
I like it. Thank you very much. Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll also be reporting for Councilor Cross in her absence tonight. For me, Debbie gave me instructions, so I want to read my little note here. The City of Keizer is soliciting applications for volunteers to be considered to serve on the following committees. We have the Public Art Commission, and we also have youth committee liaisons for all of our art commission, planning commission, all of those. So if you're interested, please go to keizer.org, and there's an application on the website for you to fill out. Or you can pick up an application here at City Hall Monday through Friday. And applications need to be turned in by Wednesday, May 31st. And there will be interviews on Thursday, June 8th at the Volunteer Coordinating Committee. I hope I did that correctly. Thank you. Okay. I even made a note too. I had like 3 notes. May 2nd, I was had the honor of attending the Samanka Luncheon. On May 4th, we had the Community Diversity Engagement Committee meeting. Also earlier, that was a very busy day because that morning started with the prayer breakfast and then the CDEC meeting, and then I went to the Neighborhood Watch organizing meeting that the police department held, and I was pleased at the number of citizens who attended. And then, like everyone here, we had our budget committee meetings. I had on May 10th, was invited to attend a legislative reception by the Oregon CASA Network to interact with not just our local legislators, but those from around the state. On the 11th, I attended the library board meeting. On the 12th, a wonderful play with Keizer Homegrown Theater, Doll's House 2, If you can attend, please do so. And then on the 14th, yesterday, Mother's Day, it was so great to be back at the fire district. So for their Mother's Day breakfast. And for Counselor Cross, on May 4th, she also attended the prayer breakfast and had the Southeast Keizer Neighborhood Association, and then attended the Neighborhood Watch as well. May 6th, she was at the Liberty House raffle and annual spring auction. On May 10th, the Keizer Chamber Board meeting. She also attended the Oregon CASA Network's legislative reception as a CASA volunteer. On May 11th, the Latino Business Alliance, and then attended the Travel Salem's, they call it MOPO, which is the Most Oregon Part of Oregon Luncheon and Awards. And then May 14th, also attended the Keizer Fire District's Mother's Day Pancake Breakfast.
All right. It has been a busy time indeed. Counselor Kohler, you got stuff coming up too.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. We've been to a few things since last meeting, that's for sure. I attended the Claggett Creek Watershed Council meeting where we talked quite a bit about Slaggy Day in the Park and got a lot of the things done that you heard tonight about that. And on the 3rd, I also attended the McNary Music Appreciation Concert at the Elsinore downtown.
That was awesome.
That was pretty fun. And then, of course, we go to Star Wars Day, where we had started with the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, a CBEL meeting after that, and then the hospital chapel dedication, which was pretty interesting. We had, I think, 15 different religions there, where we all had our own little way of talking and dedicating that facility for everyone that comes to the hospital. It was very moving. It was a great meeting. And of course, then after that, I went to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, where we got to talk a little bit about some party coming on next month. And then went to the Neighborhood Association meeting, and then from that to the Neighborhood Watch meeting. So there were only about 6 meetings that day, so it was pretty easy.
It was one of those days. Yeah.
Of course, in the budget meetings last week, and thanks for dinner. Tracy isn't here to hear that, but thank you for putting all that together. And then on the 11th, attended the LOC scholarship presentation with Mayor Clark and Councilor Reed. It was pretty exciting to see the kids, and you got to talk to them about what their dreams are and where they want to be, where they want to go, and how they're going to get there. Then 513, a beautification project with the Greater Gubser Neighborhood Association. Then hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association is coming up this week, and this weekend the actual annual library book sale. And then on the 24th has something to do with some Keizer community dinner at St. Edward from 4 to 6, and then Soggy Day at the Park coming up on the 27th, 10 to 2. And then just a quick, I talked to Ms. Lockhart and Mr. Brown about putting the directions for the committee chairman on a laminated thing, and they'll have those for us to review probably in the next week or two.
Very good. All right. That'll be very helpful. Thank you very much. Councilor Husband.
Okay. Northwest Keizer Neighborhood Association, see you there Wednesday. Thursday is Traffic Safety Bike Ped, 6 p.m. Beautiful City Hall, don't want to miss that. I'd also like to acknowledge the middle school track teams. Whitaker and Claggett Creek are in their spring athletic season, so they've been out having a couple meets to this point, and congratulations to those kids and coaches. Heard the meets have been super fun so far.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, benefit of being last is all my stuff has already been covered, so I don't really have anything more to add other than it is senior season, and so we have first of all, to get all the seniors passed so they can graduate. And then senior awards, senior banquet, all those fun senior things back in full force. So, yeah, lots of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Youth Counselor Sarmiento.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This Monday at 11, golf had their state tournament at Quail Valley. Girls and boys tennis are going to be at state this Thursday. Track and field have their CVC championships at home this Friday. And One Acts is coming up, which the theater group puts on plays directed by students and created by students. And it's going to be this May 25th and May 26th. Graduation is coming up on June 9th. And the McNary Area Orchestra Festival, it ranges from 4th grade to 12th grade, is going to be next Wednesday from 6 to 7. Our NHS National Honor Society inauguration is at 7 this Wednesday. And I have very exciting news. Our Advanced Symphony got 3rd place in state, and our Wind Ensemble got 2nd in state.
Woo!
She's a member.
Yes, not just a member. Our youth counselor is also the concert mistress for the McNary Symphony. So congratulations, and really enjoyed that McNary night at Elsinore as well. Well done. Just a couple of things to wrap up here, in case people are wondering. Yes, we're busy, but I'm sure y'all are busier too. Just to add on May 3rd, I had an opportunity with Mr. Brown and Mayor Hoy of Salem to meet with the incoming superintendent, Castaneda, and had a wonderful conversation with her. And I really appreciate her working to reach out to the community and get to know the Salem Keizer area, and looking forward to working with her. On the May 4th, one thing that hasn't been mentioned, truly the force was with us all. I had the opportunity to go to Weddell Elementary School and honor their 24 challenge winners and team members for the 4th and 5th grade, and they did a fantastic job. The 4th grade champion came from the Weddell team, and they had a number of students that participated in that mental math challenge. If you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun. It will really stretch your mind. I used to coach the team when my kids were in those grades as well. So congratulations to Weddell Elementary and the 24 Challenge team. Also was able to go to the Salem Community Market expansion on May 10th, and it opened on Wednesdays at Chemeketa Community College at their Ag Hub. That is a wonderful community space as well as teaching space. I encourage folks, if they can't make it to the Salem Saturday Market, go over to Chemeketa. It's on the 45th Avenue side, the east side of campus, open to the public. It is a wonderful community market that's going to be growing literally and figuratively as they have plant starts and so forth there over the next several months. So congratulations to the Salem Community Markets and Chemeketa Community College for a great partnership. I want to also give a huge shout out to the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. As you all know, the governor issued Executive Order 2302 to address housing and homelessness, requiring that the continuums of care come together with packages of projects that would address rapid rehousing and emergency shelter. Working together across our 2-county continuum, the service providers, governments, faith community and so forth came together to put together the framework for how we were going to address the needs of people for emergency shelter and for rapid rehousing, the timelines for being able to achieve those goals. We did a very comprehensive process. We had 23 people volunteered to be on the review and recommendation committee, including Council President Starr. We had no appeals to the recommendations that came to the board, and we passed as a slate, not just the package of projects, but all the contracts are now signed. Money is going to start flowing to our grant recipients now. And we are the very first continuum of care to get to that space in the state of Oregon. thank you to everybody here in the Marion-Polk area. That is a huge accomplishment. Way to go. People are going to get served sooner, here, faster, and effectively because we work together. Congratulations to all of the grant recipients and all the participants in the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. That's huge. So, of course, the work is now starting to actually put those into place. Meetings are going to start coming up, working with our, again, the technical advisors for implementation, but we have the structures already in place for working with keeping track of the dollars, the projects, the progress, reporting to the governor's office for the $10.4 million that our area is receiving. A couple of things coming up. Some of you may have noticed that you got this little mailing from Marion County Elections. It's called a ballot. It's not a decoration. Turn it in. So this is your this is your final notice. Those are due tomorrow by 8 o'clock. Drop them off free right here in front of City Hall. We have the first drop-off box in Marion County. I talked with the Marion County elections clerk, and he wants to put in a larger one because our location is one of the most popular. But again, it's only popular if you turn in your ballot. Please get it done tonight. Thank you. The only vote that doesn't count is the one that's not cast. Coming up, you heard a lot of things coming up with from Soggy Day at the Park and so forth. Tomorrow is the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance Housing Summit, and I will be attending. That is going to be a great opportunity to continue the work of collaboration across our two-county region. We will have the Legislative Committee on Wednesday, and like everybody, we're just waiting for the big news on Wednesday, and that is the revenue forecast. So anybody who's been following legislation, all these bills are getting parked at Ways and Means, because that's the day they find out how much money is actually at stake and the food fight begins. Bring your popcorn. On Thursday morning, we'll meet for the commissioner's breakfast with the City of Salem City Council. Already mentioned is the book sale Friday and Saturday right here. If you need some good summer reads, this is the place to get them. Great price and lots to choose from. Come on down, get your reading material for the summer. And on the 25th, will be Percy Presents for the Keizer Network of Women Giving Basket Program. Getting started now because it's a large program serving a lot of families in our community. Come on down, it's going to be a great time. And thank you to all of the work that has gone into planning for this great evening, and more importantly, for serving people in our community. That is all I have, except a breath to take a little bit of a break. All right. We're all good. With that, I will go to agenda input. And then we have on May 15th, well, that's tonight, so I think we can check that one off. Our next council meeting will be on June 5th at 7 p.m. in regular session. On June 12th, we will meet in work session. Do we have that scheduled for a topic yet? If not, I've got several to choose from.
I don't know of any.
Okay. We have a list. I'll be consulting with the city manager from that list and send it out to city council, see which ones we can tackle first, second, third, and fourth. We heard another opportunity tonight on emergency operations, but that will probably come later in the year after we finish some of our planning. On June 20th, we will meet again in regular session on Tuesday, June 20th, because Monday, June 19th is a holiday for Juneteenth. That is all I have. Is there anything else for the good of the order? I do want to wrap up. Our last meeting with our youth counselor will be on June 5th. So we're looking forward to saying thank you to her that evening for her service this year. And youth counselor Sarmiento, you have done an exemplary job this year. Thank you very much. Well done. All right, the time is 9:14 and we are adjourned.